Author's note. This video is my review of Tiny Toons, How I Spent My Vacation, based on Tiny Toon Adventures by Tom Ruegger, directed by Rich Ahrens, Ken Boyer, Kent Butterworth, Barry Caldwell, Alfred Gimeno, Art Lenardi, and Byron Vons. Published by Warner Brothers and Amblin Entertainment. Available on Hulu. Starring the voices of Charlie Adler, Tress MacNeille, Gail Matthews, Cass Soucy, Don Messick, Joe Lasky, Maurice LaMarche, Frank Welker, Rob Paulson, Candy Milo, Jonathan Winters, Eddie McClurg, Sorrel Book, and Cree Summer as Elmira and Merry Melody. Rating not available.
And now Prince Blueblood talks about Tiny Toon Adventures.
Well, hello, my faithful subjects. I am Prince Blueblood, and I have something to say about Tiny Toon Adventures. I am appalled that an immature show like this still has its share of fans. It is nothing more than juvenile humor that has no place in society. And as I stated, this show is an example of why cartoons are bad for our little kids. In fact, I'll say that even the old school Looney Tunes cartoons were the reason why this piece of slop existed in the first place.
The nerve of that blue blood. He has no appreciation for classic tunes at all. Anyway, that jerk aside, let's finally dive into the direct-to-video flick, Tiny Toons, How I Spent My Vacation. Summer vacation has arrived for the Toonsters of Acme University. It's time to get some fun and sun. But fate chooses to give Buster and Babs Bunny, no relation, along with Plucky, Hampton, and all the other Toons, the roughest summer of all time.
I miss school.
In terms of Plucky and Hampton's story, they are on their trip to Happy World Land. But it seems poor Plucky can't catch a break. He wanted to go through that Disneyland knockoff, only to go through a lot of pain along the way. The writers went crazy on that green duck, coming up with brutal ways to make his life miserable. I thought what he went through on that spring break special was bad enough. Even after he reached his destination, he still ends up on the receiving end of the stick. Isn't it any wonder why ducks are the common species to torture on cartoons?
Look, they want us to stay for dinner. For dinner or as dinner?
Out of all the stories of this movie, Buster and Babs are my personal favorite, bar none. They, alongside Byron Bassett, end up going downriver and running into plenty of wildlife that want to eat them up. This kind of story puts the adventure in Tiny Toon Adventures as we see those two rabbits and dog discovering what kind of danger they dug themselves into. There is always a part of me that wants to see this story go on and on, just to see what else they can get themselves into. Too bad this is a short movie. Maybe a video game adaptation can expand that part of the story. Please make it happen. Also, Charlie Adler as Buster Bunny is still the best.
And the most feared predator in the jungle is me!
The other Toonsters had some decent stories, but there are two who stand out altogether. The first being Elmira of all characters. We don't really dive into her mindset until later on, but I wound up liking the kind of mischief she pulls, all just to get her hands on a kitty, much to the sheer horror of the animals at the Wild Animal Park. Imagine if Elmira tormented the ponies of Equestria. The other story was Fifi La Fume and what she had to go through just for some big shot named Johnny Pugh. No relation to Johnny Cage of Mortal Kombat, and how that jerk kept walking all over her like a doormat. No wonder she's a big wooby compared to Pepe Le Pew. At least she finally gets her justice in the end. In spades.
Bacon. Pork chops.
The Tiny Toons series has had its fair share of villains like Gotcha Grabmore and Dr. Gene Splicer. This random hitchhiker that doesn't come till later is no exception. What I liked about this character is that he's not much of a big shot as most of the villains. but the way he chews the scenery and wield that chainsaw around like a maniac is just so enjoyable. It's really great that he doesn't just show up in Plucky and Hampton's story, but also in Buster, Babs, and Byron's story as well. Rob Paulsen did a really great job as this psychopath, and we got to see him again in a later Tiny Toons episode. Here's hoping he returns for Tiny Toons Looniversity.
Hey, pal, this is our story. Yeah, get your own video.
It's your call.
Tiny Toons, How I Spent My Vacation is the ideal Tiny Toon Adventures movie to check out on Hulu. There are a number of fun stories, especially from Buster and Babs, all wrapped up in a beautiful package with that same amount of comedy and zaniness you expect from Warner Brothers. If you didn't check it out, well, what are you waiting for?
I just can't help myself.